But there is one more stage of neuroplastic healing.
Mrs. Potato Head.
And understanding it changed the life of a family whose daughter's devastating birth defect would have left her institutionalized for life if it wasn't for a genius who understood that touch and subtle movement could rewire the brain.
How about kiss?
Feel your eyes. And very, very slowly, just allow the eyes to open and look up at the ceiling somewhere and find something, some detail that you can anchor your eyes on.
In this class, participants are practicing the Feldenkrais method.
And just roll your head a little bit left and right.
It's based on the fact that the mind, brain, and body always work together because neural pathways to and from the brain are spread throughout the body.
To have relaxed eyes, what it feels like, and maintain that. Eventually it becomes automatic.
It's a technique designed by the late Moshé Feldenkrais that uses mental awareness of movement and touch sensation to help serious brain problems. Feldenkrais was one of the first people to realize that the brain is plastic and that the mind programs the brain. And he realized that thinking, sensing, and bodily movement always occur together, and that increasing our awareness of movement is the key to improving movement. Little Elizabeth Nathan-Schoen was born missing 1/3 of her cerebellum. Feldenkrais discovered that people who are missing that brain area, or who suffer from cerebral palsy or stroke, can lose or never develop brain circuits that allow them to move properly.
Elizabeth, tell me about the condition you were born with.
Well, condition I was born with called cerebellar hypoplasia basically means my cerebellum was underdeveloped. And as you know, the cerebellum controls movement, balance, coordination, a whole host of other things. So when I was born, I didn't have much muscle tone, I had no movement, no coordination, all of the things basically that the cerebellum has a hand in.
But that has 80% of the neurons in the brain in it. That's a lot.
So, it's a lot. It is.
We went a month later after her birth to Mass General to see a pediatric neurologist there.
He said she's profoundly retarded. She has global brain damage. She'll never develop. She'll have to be institutionalized. It gives me goosebumps now. Thankfully, I haven't thought about this for a long time. We felt we were going to be the classic parents chasing for miracles that don't exist. But in point of fact, we had heard about Feldenkrais through somebody we knew in Toronto.
I let her go to Delhi as much as she likes. From there to Delhi by herself. Doesn't matter how, make take an hour. And she may cry 50 the most. She will do it.
And he saw me, and I guess that was it. He said, I can help her. She's a neurological mess, but I can fix her. The way I like to think of it is that every movement I do, every movement I know was introduced by Feldenkrais. I didn't really have movement until he found me.
Don't you worry, she will improve. You're a lovely girl there. And by the way, you're very clever, you know.
Early on when we saw Moshé, and we were very concerned, obviously, about her prognosis, Moshé said, she's a very clever girl. She'll dance at her wedding. And we figured if we have to wait 20-some years, if she can dance at her wedding, we'll happily
We would have been happy to wait 80-something years, as long as it took.
Right.
And the key to helping Elizabeth was helping her undergo an essential stage of neuroplastic healing that I call neurodifferentiation. Babies don't have fine motor skills. Their movements only become precise as they differentiate them and become aware of the smallest differences between moving fingers and limbs, thus building up detailed brain maps for those movements.
Excellent. That's clever. Come on, take the book.
When a brain is injured, the way Elizabeth's was at birth, making any movement hard, the maps have no opportunity to develop. Thus, the brain's signals to the body are imprecise. Some muscles are under-contracting, and others are spastic.
Go and get Daddy.
He took my finger and put it behind her ankle, and he said, feel that? And there was like a knot of muscle. He said, you'll see if we loosen that up, she'll be able to bend her leg, and she'll begin to creep. And he said, as soon as she does that, you'll see her demeanor will change. Within a day, she started to creep. And it became apparent that this was not magic. This was something which he explained in a logical way and was a rational process and would yield results.
Feldenkrais believed that when a person was relaxed, the brain could most easily detect the small movements necessary to differentiate the brain maps.
Is it Daddy now or Mommy?
And that was the major component of Feldenkrais is touch. And it's a very soft touch, but it creates neural pathways, it creates, it's the most intimate form that we have. And I think perhaps that's why there is the connection. And maybe it's not such an intellectual connection as it is a somatic, emotional connection.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. He thought that the mind and the brain and the body were an inseparable whole, and that when he was engaging people through the body, he was engaging brain and mind simultaneously.
What Feldenkrais knew is that in order to get results, you have to have the body talk to the brain. Ready? Oh, good boy.
Basically, he said there's incredible redundancy in the brain. So if one part isn't working, you can train another part to take over. We continued after Feldenkrais' death with Anat Baniel, who had been his assistant. And fortunately, she could continue what he started. And that went on for years.
Friends and family, we're going to invite up the bride and groom to dance their first dance as husband and wife.
Did your parents tell you all the things that doctors had said, that you'd be institutionalized, that you would probably be, at best, mentally retarded?
They did. I don't remember what age I was. I think it was later. I think I was probably a teenager already. I think I must have known, obviously, that something was different and something was wrong. But it wasn't on my radar in a way that was, I have something in pity me, and oh my God, I'm never going to overcome. It was just something that I was working at getting through life.
These are the stages of neuroplastic healing: addressing the health of brain cells, neurostimulating dormant pathways, modulating the noisy brain, and finally, differentiating the brain maps so that they can make the fine distinctions that they were meant to make.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing works for everyone. This is because we're all different, and no two brain problems or injuries are identical. But we can learn an immense amount from these people who were told they'd never get better. The word healing comes from the Old English, helen, and it means not just cure, but to make whole again. It's about restoring lost functions. And when I think of the people we've just met, this is what they said happened to them. They almost to a person told me, I feel like I got my life back.